This is Needy and Normal. Welcome. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After years of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear. Meeting your needs is essential for living your best life. Here, we'll talk about your needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. Let's get needy because it's normal. It's kind of spooky today. Sitting by the window, you might be able to hear the wind howling. There's been storms all over the place as we enter full throttle into springtime. And we're just getting a lot of wind here and indecisive air temps. But it's creepy because as the wind blows, I've decided to go back in time and tell you a story that used to absolutely haunt me. It's a story of when I was 16, and within 5 days of having my driver's license, totaled my car. The beginning of this story is epic. My birthday is January 5th, so I was the combo baby, right? As I got older, it was a lot of, well, this is a Christmas and birthday gift. But on one particular Christmas, the Christmas right before my birthday, there was one final gift under the tree in a small box. Not too small, but a little bit small. And I unwrap one layer, open the box, and there's another box. I open another layer, and there's another box. And the third box was teeny. And I opened that box knowing, hoping it was a car key. And lo and behold, it was a car key. Somehow, my mom and dad brilliantly surprised me with a car key inside that box. And not only that, managed to get a brand new Volkswagen Jetta into our garage without me knowing. Somehow, they pulled it off. It was one of the nicest, grandest gestures. A 16-year-old. Here I am, getting this incredible gift from my parents. So, of course, what do? I run to the garage. And in the garage is exactly the car I was dreaming of and hoping for, with a big, giant bow on top. I can feel it in my body, how purely excited and full of joy I was to have my dream come true of getting this car and having a car at all, but knowing what it meant, which for me was freedom. It was, I get to take myself where I need to go when I need to go. I mean, within reason, right? Because I was still very much living under my parents' roof and having to abide by their rules, and rules they had. I was not allowed to have more than one passenger in the car at a time, and I was not allowed to go on the highway. I was meant to go to and from school, and at the time, we did an off-campus lunch, so I was able to leave school in the middle of the day to go to lunch and come back, and it was the first time I had a phone, so I was able to contact my mom if I needed to. I was a dancer. I was a competitive dancer, so I was able to go on my Tuesdays and Thursdays, and any added practices, I was able to go to practice. And actually, at that time, I was still dancing on the drill team for my high school, so I would obviously stay late at school and drive home. So my parents knew what I was up to. But of course, I got the car on Christmas, and my birthday was 10 days later, so I had to wait. I was very patient. And so these rules were really drilled into me for the next 10 days. And the day came. I turned 16. I went to the DMV, got my license. I was wearing a bright pink shirt. I'll never forget. And I got to drive for the first time. That was on a Monday. So I followed all the rules all week. I did great. come Friday, I was so excited to be able to take myself and a friend out. Called my friend Jenna. I said, hey, let's go to the movies. I'll pick you up. Just being able to say, I'll pick you up was just, oh my gosh, amazing. Okay, come pick me up. So I go to her house. We come in. We take photos. I hold my keys. Like, we made such a big deal. Her parents were so sweet. She gets in the car. We're driving to the movie theater. And I had another friend named Jody call me and say, hey, I know you have your license now. Come pick me up. Let's go do something. Right? Everyone has that friend. And I said, no, Jen and I are going to the movies. So I remember pushing back at first. And she started begging and pleading and complimenting my new gift and my new freedom. Oh my gosh, but you have a car and I want to see it. I'm so excited for you. Let's go. So I look at Jenna and I said, Jody wants us to pick her up. What do you think? And my friend Jenna, with such a good heart and a good mind, said, we probably shouldn't. Jody can be a little wild. And I thought, yeah, we should probably not go get her. But she kept bugging us and kept begging us. And finally, we both gave in. Okay, fine, we'll come get you. You can come to the movie with us. So we go pick up Jody. She gets in the back seat. So I broke rule number 1. I had more than one person in the car. But I thought, you know what? We'll go to the movies. I'm not going anywhere far. It's fine. And then Jody starts to push, hey, let's go pick up my boyfriend. And immediately we're like, what? No, it's a girls' night. No way. Come on. She's pushing. And of course, I'm at that vulnerable age of 16, having my newfound freedom and wanting to use it and being proud of it and not quite thinking clearly. I said, with a lot of convincing, I said, okay, fine. But then we're going to miss the movie, and what are we going to do? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't even remember what we thought we would end up doing, but she had convinced me to go get her boyfriend. She starts telling me how to get to his house, and I realize that it's in Dallas. So I lived in Plano, which is about, 25, 30 minutes from downtown Dallas. And the directions tell us to get on the highway. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, no, I'm not allowed on the highway. I'm not supposed to go. I knew all of these things that I wasn't supposed to do. But more convincing, more excitement, turn up the music. It's okay, let's go. Okay, fine, let's go. I don't even remember his name. I have no idea who this kid was. I didn't know who he was then either. And I was pushed and convinced. But if you were ever a people pleaser, it's so hard to say no, even when your best judgment says no. Well, my best judgment was being weakened by the moment. So we're on the highway. It's 30 minutes down the highway. Meanwhile, my parents think I'm in a movie. And I get to the apartment complex where her boyfriend lives. He comes out, gets in the back seat. So I have really broken rules at this point. I've got 2 people extra in the car. Plus I went on the highway. Far. Not even a couple exits. 30 minutes out of the way. And I had had my license for 5 days. 5 days. So we're getting back over to get on the highway. There's a little bit of construction. So as I'm entering the highway, there were 2 lanes that smooshed into one lane real fast. And as they were coming into one lane, there was a green Pontiac Firebird to my left. And I had accidentally, not knowing how narrow this lane became, cut this guy off. And as I was cutting him off, I remember distinctly looking out the window and seeing him glare at me. And it wasn't just how annoying, you cut me off. It was mean and malicious. This guy looked at me like I had just done something awful. absolutely awful. And I thought, ooh, that was unnerving. But I got on the highway, I moved on with myself, and that was that. So I'm trying to stay in the middle lane. I'm trying to follow the rules of the road and stay under 60 or whatever. I don't even remember. In Texas, it's probably 70 miles per hour was the speed limit. And I'm trying to focus on driving. Meanwhile, of course, we've got music going on. Everyone's laughing and being silly. I looked in the back seat and realized Jody wasn't buckled. And I remember telling her, Jody, what are you doing? Buckle. Like, I'm a new driver. Buckle. And still, I have no idea where we were going. And I didn't even think about the fact that I picked this kid up and I was going to have to bring him home. Like, what am I doing? I get it. 16. I was 16. So I'm minding my business as far as I knew. And this Pontiac Firebird was right on my tail and really close. And I remember getting this icky feeling like he was doing it on purpose. And at one point he pulled over to the side of me. Granted, I'm in the middle lane, and then he was back behind me, and then he pulled to the left, and he was basically circling me as I was making my way down the highway. At one point, I really started to get nervous. I'm thinking, what is this guy doing? Like, I know I cut him off, but leave me alone, man. And I was trying to keep my wits about me. I was trying to stay calm. And I felt the urge to push the pedal, to try and speed up a little bit just to get away from him. Well, that was not a good idea, because when I sped up, he sped up. When I slowed down, he slowed down. And I started to feel like I was in trouble. At one point, I got my car up to almost 100 miles per hour trying to outrun this guy. And I couldn't. So I finally slowed down to about 60 and was trying to just let him give up on me and pass. I wasn't making eye contact. I wasn't looking at him. I was trying really hard not to. And my friend Jody, I know for a fact he was on the right side of my car at this point. She opens the window and gives him the bird. This guy was mad and taunting me and being scary with his driving, and she flicks him off. And I caught the tail end of it. I looked back just in time to see her pull her hand back in the window, and I thought, what did you just do? I said it. What did you just do? And she said, what? He's a dick. Oh my God. Like, teenagers do. And my heart just dropped, because at that moment he started getting more aggressive, speeding up, slowing down, getting behind me. And I started to speed up again. I didn't know what to do. So finally, I really felt like we were in some kind of car chase race. I don't know what it felt like, but I was trying so hard to get away from this guy. And I started to speed up. And he came up on the right side of me again and made it seem like he was going to run into my car. I saw him turn his wheel to the left just ever so slightly, and I panicked. And I don't know what I did. I slammed on the brakes or I sped up. I don't know what I did. It went white. But he slowed down and my car spun out of control. I was going at least 60 miles per hour, maybe more. He slows down. My car shoots diagonally across the highway. I have no idea how there were not other cars there at the moment. I would imagine that there were other cars noticing that this was a problem, that these two cars going back and forth. It's my guess. After a while, I thought about this. But I shot across the highway, literally spinning so hard you could feel the pressure inside the car. It went white. We were all screaming, and we slammed into the wall. I was in the far left lane. I shot all the way over the 4-lane highway into the wall. Smoke, airbags deployed, the sound of the crunching car and a window cracking. My knee lodged in front of me, and I still had the sensation of that green Pontiac Firebird flying by and getting away. Ambulance came. We all went to the hospital. We all had injuries. But we were all okay. It was shocking. I do believe that Jenna broke her hand because Joni wasn't buckled. She flew towards the front of the car, her knee slamming into the center console, removing it from where it was because she hit so hard on impact. But the boyfriend, who I can't remember his name, grabbed her like a seatbelt. He was buckled and had kept her probably from going through the windshield. I think he was the least scathed. I think he was okay. But again, I don't really remember. And I might not be remembering fully how this all played out injury-wise. I'm sure there was more to it. But still, at the end of the day, we were okay. When I got to the hospital and they were assessing all my injuries, I realized that I had pulled every single muscle on the left side of my neck where the seatbelt was, turned green. It was so bruised. I sprained my right thumb because I was gripping the steering wheel so hard. Wait, I'm looking right now. It's my left thumb. It knocked back and dislocated. It's never been the same. If you ever meet me or hang out with me, ask to see it. It looks real funny now. I had burns on my legs. I don't even remember the rest. But I knew I was lucky. Very, very lucky. That over the course of terrible, horrible decisions, I survived. My friends survived. Which should have been, I found out, a fatal accident. Based on how my car shot across the highway and how hard we slammed into the wall. How did no one die? How did no one get more hurt? I heard later, after they kind of studied the scene, that the Jetta, the engine, folds under, right? Otherwise, it could have come straight at us. So the head-on collision with the airbags deploying and the way that the car hit and the engine came under, it saved our lives. Several people bought their kids Jettas after knowing that our lives were saved by the Jetta that night, which was utterly and completely annihilated and totaled. And when I saw it for the first time after the accident, I was in utter shock, seeing how crunched and smushed and banged up it was, that I opened the door and got out. What happened to the guy? We were less than a mile from a toll booth when the crash occurred. And I found out later that there was one camera not working that night. He was never found. He was never held accountable for torturing me on the highway and scaring me to death and basically driving me off the road. He was never held accountable. So while I escaped with my life and my friends escaped with theirs, the damage that came after was unforgettable. For one, I lost all respect for Jody and couldn't be her friend anymore, for not only pressuring me, but for antagonizing this guy. I couldn't forgive her. My friend Jenna, I don't know exactly why, but my guess is she felt unsafe with me because I was able to make decisions I shouldn't have made and pressured her. But when you go through something like that together, it either bonds you or separates you, and it separated us. And I understood, and I never held it against her. And I was fortunate to have other friends, really good friends, because I needed a lot of support. This accident traumatized me in more than one way. Not only did it absolutely terrify me in just the basic act of driving, getting behind a wheel, for example, felt agonizing and terrifying. And while I didn't have a car anyways, I definitely used that as an excuse to not drive again for a long time. I asked my mom to drive me everywhere. My sister was already at college, so my mom definitely had to step up. My dad worked so much that I don't know if he drove me to many places, but I had a lot of activities and I needed rides. And as a 16-year-old who was so excited to have her freedom, that was just such a total 180 to not wanting to drive at all because it scared me so badly. And the other thing that was so terrifying besides driving for me after that was knowing that the guy in the green Pontiac Firebird was still out there somewhere. I was haunted by him. I thought I saw him everywhere. Anytime there was a green car, anytime there was a Pontiac, anytime there was a Firebird, didn't even matter what color it was, for years. It's like I was looking for him. Maybe to stand up for myself and tell him what an asshole, scary, undeserving person he was for doing that to me. Or maybe it was just to avoid him. I don't know. Terrifying. So I had three things if you count losing friendships. I lost friendships, I was scared to drive, and I was haunted by the person who caused this accident, who terrorized me, who made me experience road rage. And a tiny little piece of the story is, in part of my healing, which I will talk about, I was in pageants when I was younger, from age 13 until 17. And I think it was the last pageant I ever did, was Miss Teen Texas. And my platform, like the thing I fight for basically, was road rage, against road rage. And I had to speak about it publicly on stage for one of my questions, my interview questions. And I realized that the powerful part of it was being able to speak about this scary situation and how I had to learn from my own mistakes and decisions that I made that were poor, but also accepting that road rage was not something I invited, and it wasn't my fault. How that guy reacted and what he did was not my fault. I was just trying to do my best to get away from him, and I couldn't. I was trapped. And knowing that while I made poor decisions to get me into that situation, and I regretted them terribly, I knew it wasn't my fault that I was victimized by this man who got pissed at me for cutting him off. To this day, I will not look at another driver in the eyes, most likely, unless I happen to recognize the car and know the person. If someone cuts me off, if someone is on my butt, if there's any kind of, not good driving around me, I keep my cool and I don't make contact and I let it go. I'm not frightened anymore, but it took me a long time. And in my healing from making poor choices and being a victim of road rage, and honestly almost dying, I had basically two choices. Face it, as in get behind the wheel and drive over and over and over again until it feels comfortable, until I start to trust myself again and my abilities as a driver, be a new driver, but still, I had to trust myself again. I had to get better at my instincts. I had to get better at my decisions. I had to get sharper at paying attention to my surroundings as I was driving. I had to get better at not being distracted by someone in my car, which, as you can imagine, when I finally did get another car, I was not allowed to have passengers for a while, which I never argued with. In fact, I was not the one to volunteer to drive when I finally started really getting my confidence back. But I had to face it. I had to drive over and over again, starting with short distances and then longer distances, regular street roads to finally a highway again. It took a long time. I really don't think I got through it until my second year of college, which is 4 years. It took me 4 years. My first year of college, my parents didn't let me take my car to school. And yes, I got a new car. Somehow I did. But I knew they were trying to make me focus on living in the dorms, walking to class, and not feel the need to have a car to take me wherever I needed to go. Plus, my sister was there. She had a car. But I knew they were protecting me in some way, knowing that I was away from home for the first year. And I'm sure it was absolutely terrifying for them, having gone through almost losing me, to having to trust me thousands of miles away in California when they were still in Texas. So I understand that decision now. In fact, I think I understood it then too. So until my second year of college, when I got my car and drove it back to school, not by myself, it wasn't until then that I started to feel confident again. But I knew, especially in practice, that I had to drive over and over and over again if I was ever going to get over my fear of driving. Now, I also felt better living in California, knowing that whoever that guy is was most likely still back in Texas. And it was easier for me to get over the feeling of him haunting me and driving up next to me at a red light. But I still looked for him for a long time. But the other thing I was able to do and needed to do, remember I said 2 choices. It's face it. The other choice is manage it. And in my case, and most often with facing our fears and getting over trauma, it is both. Face it, practice facing it, in my case, and then manage it. So whenever I felt nervous, I would take my deep breaths and I would tell myself, just because it happened doesn't mean it's going to happen again. I know how to make better choices. I'm okay. I'm safe in this moment. I had to tell myself that I was okay. And the more I managed it and used those tools to calm myself down, the less strong those fearful feelings would be. And over time, driving over and over again, trusting myself more and more, gaining my confidence, trusting my abilities as a driver. The more I did that, the better it got. The more I used my tools to manage the fears when they arose, the easier it got. And over time, eventually, it faded. To a point where now, it's over 20 years later, I'm able to tell this story without feeling those feelings of fear or worrying about being haunted by the guy in the Firebird. Now, it's not gone entirely. I have my moments. It was an incredibly scary experience that will stay with me forever. But I'm not scared to drive. I've slipped all over the ice here in Wisconsin, and I've managed to get through it. I'm not a fearful driver anymore. I haven't been for years, and I'm so proud of that. But I think the reason I've been able to do that is because when you face your fears and you use tools to manage it, it works. And I was consistent because I needed to be. For a while there, it was debilitating. And while this is just one example of trauma and fear and a reason to be fearful of a trauma, this is just one example. You might relate to this in a different way. But in my research of trauma and in my own practice of healing and going through different types of therapy, and this isn't the only trauma I've faced, this is just one of the biggest ones I've faced. I've learned a lot. And it seems kind of seamless that this face your fears and use your tools really works. So I've changed my belief system. I've let go. I talked about this in the last episode. Go back and listen to the practice of letting go. I've let go of the old story. I let it go years ago that because I was in that horrific car accident, that it would happen again. I've let that go. It's an old story. Just because something happens once does not mean it's going to happen again. Most of the time, it will not repeat itself. Now, I know you've heard history repeats. Yes, maybe in some ways there are forms of that. But even so, you can prepare yourself by knowing how to face your fears, by knowing how to make use of your tools. So those are the two biggest lessons I've learned. That and making better decisions, learning how to look out for myself, learning how to use my boundaries and say no. That was one of the earliest and hardest lessons of using my boundaries and knowing when there was a red flag and not being pressured to do something I knew was wrong. And it also took me a long time to get over the guilt of putting my friends in that position by giving in to them, basically. Or giving in to one friend in particular, I should say. But giving in, saying yes. I didn't have to do that. And I put myself and other people in a really scary situation. And I had regrets and I had guilt. And I had to let that go too, because it happened. It is what it is. It was what it was. I made those choices. I cannot go back in time and change them, but I can learn. I can learn. I can always take lessons with me in creating my new story. So if I face something scary, I remember how brave I was to heal from this. If I face something that pushes me and urges me to use my tools, I know they're there. I've given myself so much comfort in experiencing something like that, but making use of it and learning from it. I'm not scared anymore. I haven't been for a long time. And it's not always easy to heal from things. But it's possible. I needed to learn how to use my boundaries. And by now, over 20 years later, I'm pretty damn good at it. And you can't avoid everything. You can't push back and say no and save yourself from a sticky situation. You know, things happen. But the quicker we accept that things happen and the more we learn how to trust ourselves and get back on our feet, face our fears, manage ourselves when things are scary or tricky, emotional, the better we'll be. Thank you for listening to my story. I haven't shared it in a really long time. Whew. Your needs matter because you matter. Take care. The Needy and Normal podcast is brought to you by ABL Life Coaching. Visit ablifecoaching.com to explore what life coaching with a transition coach is like and schedule your own free consultation. Thank you so much for listening today. If you liked this episode, please share it, rate it, and follow it so you don't miss an episode. And come back next week. If you're curious about coaching, visit ablifecoaching.com or find me at ABL Life Coaching on Instagram. And you can now follow Needy and Normal Pod on Instagram as well.